Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I've got a lot to discuss. And I want to start with Jimmy Kimmel coming back on ABC many stations last night. And I saw this study, and I actually think it is super interesting. And all it does is look at the number of guests and who the people are that are guests on the show. The study was published Tuesday. This is late night guests. I'm reading from foxnews.com. 99% of political guests on late night comedy shows from January 6th through June 30th, so that is so far this year, first half of the year, were left-leaning. 99%. Study looked at Jimmy Kimmel Live, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Tonight Show with Fallon, CBS's The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and Comedy Central's The Daily Show. It didn't in any way look at The View, but the percentages would be very, very similar. And so my question for you, and I think this is a big question, and I think a lot about how to solve issues that may be going on in the country. Believe it or not, I sit around just thinking about these. Why would this not violate the equal time doctrine, at least for purposes of making it a big issue? Equal time, the equal time doctrine is a mess in general, but let me summarize it for you. If you have someone who is of one political party on, then you are obligated to have their opponent on as well, or else it can be seen as an in-kind contribution. And this can sometimes be super interesting to analyze. So let me give you an example that's a long time ago. I remember I believe it was the 1994 Senate race in the state of Tennessee. Fred Thompson, the Republican candidate, ran against Jim Cooper, the Democrat candidate. At that time, Fred Thompson, some of you will remember, was a pretty successful actor. And they ran the Hunt for Red October, is my recollection. Guys in the studio can look this up. They ran the Hunt for Red October on network television during the election season. And the Cooper campaign argued that that was an in-kind contribution to the Fred Thompson political campaign because he was running as a senator in Tennessee, and he had gotten to appear in the state of Tennessee on that movie. He was a character, I think, inside of the submarine, if I remember correctly. Fred Thompson was as an actor. And the local affiliate said, you know what, you're right, we need to give Jim Cooper whatever the airtime was for Fred Thompson on that movie. We need to give him that same airtime on our network in order to fulfill the equal time doctrine. And again, that was all the way back in 1994, different era, but I remember that story. I'm fascinated by this from a legal perspective. ABC, NBC, and CBS are all operating on a equal time world because they are they are given licenses and they're supposed to be fair and impartial. Now, we can all say, hey, do we think CBS News or ABC News or NBC News are actually fair and impartial? No. But if you're going to allow left-wing political guests onto comedy shows and you never give the same opportunity to right-wing politics, that would seem to me to be, in some sense, a violation of equal time. Now, they can say, well, this is a talk show. It's exempted as a news category. I don't think that I buy that anymore because you're having pretty clearly left-wing propaganda and you're putting on left-wing elected political officials as the guests. You should have an obligation, in my opinion, and I'm going to talk with the FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr about this. You should have an obligation. I think he's talked about this some. You should have an obligation to have guests from across the political spectrum. Now, ideally, this would be something that the shows themselves would do because they would recognize that there's a value in having divergent perspectives. And I went on Fox News recently, and Fox News has, by the way, left-wing commentators on its most popular shows, Jessica Tarlov, Harold Ford Jr. It's regular occurrence that Democrat politicians are on as guests on Fox News, just FYI, which I think is a good thing. Brendan Carr has talked about this a bit, but I suggested this on Jesse Waters, I believe it was. Might have been Sean Hannity's show recently. I said, to me, this feels like a no-brainer. Why can't we have guests from both ends of the political spectrum on? And in fact, I tweeted, hey, like, I think something Jimmy Kimmel should pledge to do is have one Trump voter on a week. Just one. One Trump voter on a week would, I think, be an important sign that you're trying to appeal to the whole nation. And I told Jimmy that. And I appreciate it. I think we have the audio. Last night's monologue from Jimmy Kimmel, he gave me a shout out along with other Trump voting media members. Here's what that sounded like.
Maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. People who I never would have imagined, like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you
we
can
don't
and can't
like
say
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like. That will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's absolutely right. This affects all of us, including him. I mean, think about it. If Ted Cruz can't speak freely, then he can't cast spells on the Smurfs. Even though I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects, some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it. And thanks.
So that was Jimmy Kimmel on, and I watched the monologue. I would have preferred he just said, hey, I got this one wrong. I screwed up. The killer of Charlie Kirk appears to have been motivated by left-wing vengeance, and we have to do a better job of trying to stamp left-wing, right-wing, independent political violence out. I did like the fact that he talked about Erica Kirk in the most powerful moments of the Turning Point discussion. That's in the past now, though, okay? Like, Jimmy's got his show back. He's going to be continuing. To me, I'm more interested in going forward. How do these talk shows, which are in the public interest on public airwaves, how do they do a better job of reflecting the entirety of American life? I think they should have, if they're going to talk politics, I think they should have people from a variety of different political backgrounds on. I think that would be ideal. And I think it should be necessary. Now, ideally, the government doesn't have to get involved. But I do think that shows like The View, which are clearly opinion news shows, and a lot of these talk shows in the evening, which have become, in many ways, left-wing propaganda, I do think there should be an equal time component to them. You don't have to agree with Adam Carolla or Clay Travis or Buck Sexton or Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens, and everybody has a variety. Dave Rubin, I could run through Megyn Kelly. A ton of different people, quote unquote, on the right. Matt Walsh. A lot of people of us have, Buck Sexton, if I didn't say him. We have a wide variety of opinions. We're not a monolithic unit. But I do think if you allowed those arguments to be shared, it would likely be a better reflection of America. And I think ultimately the shows would be more successful. Also a solution here. Greg Gutfeld has got a supremely successful show on Fox News. Why do all these shows have to be in New York and LA? I live in Nashville. When I started OutKick here in Nashville, people told me that I was crazy. They said, if you're going to run a media company, you're going to have to move to New York or LA. Daily Wire is here now. Theo Vaughn is here. Nate Bargatze is here. A lot of political talent. Tommy Lahren, a lot of the OutKick talent is here. Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro is here a lot. We've got Candace Owens is here. There's a lot, and that doesn't even get into the entertainment element of Nashville. Obviously, there's tons of singers who live here. There's lots of pro athletes that make their home here. Per capita, I would argue Nashville as a pro-American sports city, that is a sports city with pro sports franchises, probably per capita, other than New York and L.A., maybe even more than New York and L.A., given the sizes of those cities, Nashville per capita might have more famous people than any city in America that is, again, a pro sports city. Like there are places like Malibu, that you would roll into to Los Angeles, maybe Santa Barbara, particular communities that may have a higher celebrity density. But I don't know that Nashville, as a city with pro sports franchises, there are more celebrities here than anywhere. Why not have a talk show that originates from Nashville? I think the number of celebrities that are either here or willing to come here is through the roof. Sean Ryan does his show here now. There's a lot of people. Why not do a show from the middle part of America with middle America sensibilities and middle America humor? This doesn't feel like a crazy idea to me. I'm not a comedian. I think I could do that show. I think there are lots of people that could do that show in an entertaining late night show fashion. Why would you have to base everything still in New York and LA? And you could say, okay, what would the impact be? I think the sensibility of a show from Nashville is different than a sensibility of a show from New York and LA. I think the writing staff would be different. I think the guests would be different. I think there would be a huge segment of the population that would respond really well to a live studio show originating from Nashville. Am I trying to reinvent the wheel here? I still think there's a big market out there for reasonable, funny, smart, original, authentic content. And I don't think it's being served necessarily by late night television as is. I think what happened is Stephen Colbert had success and everybody copied him. And now nobody's having success because everybody started doing the same kind of show. If Stephen Colbert had said, hey, I'm going to go stridently political in my viewpoint on late night television, and nobody else had followed him, I think probably Fallon and Kimmel, this is my personal opinion, would be doing better. I think they felt pressured because of the success that Colbert had to follow him in that direction, and you ended up effectively with a monolith. Now, Greg Gutfeld is killing it on Fox News, but to a large extent, every show on Fox News kills it, right? Starting with Fox and Friends AM or Fox and Friends First, all the way through the absolute end of the day, the audience for Fox News is bigger than the audience for any channel in America. So all of Fox News kills it, including Greg Gutfeld. And I give them immense credit for doing a very funny, well-done late-night show. But I actually think that's just a sign that there's a market for more as opposed to less. So that's my idea, and I think the equal time doctrine should be applied when it comes to who's guests on these shows, because otherwise it's an in-kind contribution. If Fred Thompson appearing on The Hunt for Red October was seen, I think accurately, as potentially requiring equal time because that's a public broadcast network, why is the same standard not being applied on these other late-night shows on The View? Heck, I'll go on. I would go on Stephen Colbert tomorrow. Audience might hate me. I would go on The View tomorrow. I would go on Jimmy Fallon tomorrow. I would go on Jimmy Kimmel tomorrow. I'll go on any of these shows and tell you exactly what I think, for better or worse. I think there are a lot of people like me that would do the same. And so I just think there's an opportunity out there. I think this is largely what Nexstar and Sinclair are talking about. Jimmy Kimmel's not on right now in Nashville. Nexstar is choosing to carry other programming instead. I think if the Kimmel Show and other late night shows came out and said, hey, you know what, we're going to have a variety of perspectives from guests now, at least one guest a week is going to be a Trump voter if we're going to have political guests on, to me, that is a no-brainer solution that would better reflect the totality of the American audience. So just an idea out there. And if you're asking, okay, I don't think there's a market for even ridicule of both political parties, or everything has to be slanted to the left. Bill Maher's show seems to be doing really well. And to Bill Maher's credit, they have a wide variety of perspectives on that HBO program. South Park seems to be having maybe the most success it's ever had. And they are always lampooning the entirety of the American political spectrum. So I actually think the market-based solution here is there's a lot of demand for this. And I think that if they're not going to do it directly, this is something that the FCC commissioner should look into, and I do think is consequential. Serious story. We had a shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. These are the consequences, I think, of people not being exposed to a wide variety of perspectives. FBI Director Kash Patel shared photos of the shell casings. Written on the shell casings were anti-ICE, was anti-ICE. And as a result, 2 people lost their lives. The shooter also killed himself. And it is, I believe, a sign of left-wing political violence has completely taken over in this country over the last couple of years. Think about it. Just in the last 3 years, left-wingers tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh. The guy wanted to kill Kavanaugh because he didn't want Roe v. Wade overturned. They tried to kill Donald Trump twice. And people can say, oh, we don't know the motives of the first shooter. I think if you try to kill somebody, you disagree with them. Call me crazy. Second guy was just convicted of attempted murder and attempted assassination, and he was a committed and avowed leftist who completely bought into the idea that Trump was Hitler and a fascist and that he had to kill him in order to save the country. We had a pro-Palestine, crazy left-winger burn down the Jewish Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro's residence, attempt to kill everybody there. We had 2 different Christian schools shot up by far left-wing trans people. In the one hand, Nashville, where I live, Christian school. In the other, Minneapolis, that just took place. We had certainly Charlie Kirk assassinated. We had ICE offices, as I just said, just shot up in Dallas today. We had an ABC affiliate in Sacramento shot up by a left-winger. We had the United Healthcare CEO also shot and killed with motives engraved on the bullets. I'm sorry. That's a lot of left-wing political violence that has occurred just in the past few years. It doesn't even count the people who shot at the softball field, baseball field, when they found out that Republicans were there warming up. Left-wing violence is the thing. And engraving bullets to explain your motives, because anytime there's a left-wing shooter, places like MSNBC and CNN say, we may never know the motive here. Actually, the motive is written on the bullets. Anti-fascist on the bullets that killed Charlie Kirk. Anti-Nazi slogans on the bullets that killed Charlie Kirk. Anti-ICE written on the bullets where the guy who killed himself after killing a couple of people with his rifle, written there. It's a real issue. And it's a natural consequence of the last decade trying to say that Trump is Hitler, trying to say that Trump is a fascist, trying to say that all Trump voters are Nazis. These people think they are heroes. They have bought into the broken logic that is being argued here, and the consequences are real, and the consequences are, sadly, deadly, and it's awful. All right. Gavin Newsom, do we have Gavin Newsom? I don't know if we have audio of this, but Gavin Newsom went on one of these late-night talk shows. I think he was on with Stephen Colbert. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Stephen Colbert's show, speaking directly to the equal time argument that I am making. This is effectively a paid political ad for Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom goes on here and he says, I'm not even sure that we'll have elections in 2028. Watch.
I fear that we will not have an election in 2028. I really mean that in the core of my soul, unless we wake up to the code red, what's happening in this country, and we wake up soberly to how serious this moment is.
All right. I disagree with you, Gavin. I will put $10 million of my own money on the table. If there is a presidential election in 2028, you pay me $10 million. If there is not, you can go round up the money from your donors because you may not have it yourself. If there is not an election, I will give you $10 million. Clearly, I'm going to win this bet. And I'm such a nice guy, Gavin, that I will even take you out for a fancy dinner at French Laundry. But put your money where your mouth is. If you truly believe this, if you truly believe we're not going to have an election, the kind of statement that is motivating, I think, a lot of this left-wing political violence, then put your money on the table. Put $10 million down and say, I'll bet you Clay Travis, because I'll put $10 million down. And I am telling you right now, I'll have $10 million more dollars. Gavin Newsom doesn't believe this. He won't actually put his own money behind his own argument. He's lying. He's smart enough to know this is not true, but he thinks it plays well with the broken-brained left in this party that's out there killing people. And there are consequences from this rhetoric. I'm putting my own argument forward, and I'm backing it up by $10 million. We're going to have an election in 2028. Where's your money, Gavin? Put it on the table. I'm calling you out. Speaking of money, congratulations to my friends at PrizePicks. This is a great story. My friend Adam founded the company, University of Georgia grad. I wish that the Bulldogs had lost in that game against Tennessee, but I am impressed. Adam said, hey, you know what? I think there's a business opportunity here. Just a few years ago, he started PrizePicks. Story came out this week. PrizePicks sold for a valuation of $4.15 billion. $4.15 billion because they have built a great brand that's out there trying to appeal to everyone who loves sports, whatever your background is. If you like baseball, if you like basketball, if you like college football, if you like the NFL, heck, if you like the Ryder Cup, PrizePicks is designed to just make sports more fun than it otherwise would be. And they've done a fabulous job of it. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia, Adam's home state where he founded this company, Florida, 40-plus states all over the country, 13 million-plus players. Download the app. Use code OutKick. You get $5. You play $5. You get $50. I'm going to give you a pick tomorrow. We have won 2 of the last 3 weeks with our NFL picks. I'll give you another pick tomorrow. But in the meantime, go download the app. You're going to love it. And when you play $5, simple, pick more or less, then you will win. You will get $50 just deposited straight into your account. Again, play $5, $50 straight into your account. Go to prizepicks.com, use code OutKick, download the PrizePicks app, use code OutKick, and you get $50 when you play $5. Go do it today. But again, congrats to those guys. Mike Ibarra, the CEO. They've built a great team. Phenomenal exit. Great business that they built based here in the United States of America. I'm proud of them. Okay, I'm not proud of the Tennessee Titans. We had Brian Callahan, for my money, one of the worst hires ever made in the history of the NFL. Last year, Brian Callahan went 3-14 as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Now he has gone 0-3 to start this season. So he is, am I correct in this, 3-17 as a head coach? That is not an ideal record. 3-17 as a head coach, 3-14 last year, 0-3 this year. The only reason he was hired was because we were told he's a great play caller and he'll be able to develop Will Levis, this young quarterback that's out there that everybody is focused on. And Will Levis last year was a disaster, got benched. Now, number 1 overall draft pick, Cam Ward. They can't protect him. Offense looks inept. Coaching sideline decisions look indefensible. And yesterday, it was announced that Brian Callahan will no longer call plays for the Tennessee Titans. Why in the world is Brian Callahan still employed at all. Why do they have him? He's the worst coach maybe ever hired in the history of the NFL. He can't make basic decisions on the sideline. He doesn't know when to challenge. I have seen enough, sadly, watching the Titans. This guy has to be gone, and they have to bring in a new coach. But if your expertise is your offensive play calling, and now you are giving up offensive play calling responsibilities from Office Space, what is it exactly that you do here? The answer is lose and nothing very well at all. Bill Belichick, do we have this cover? Us Weekly decided they were going to put Bill Belichick on the cover alongside of his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. Here that is. Bill Belichick won a lot of football games when Tom Brady was his coach, but he has run up against the only thing that is undefeated in the history of mankind, and I think you probably have an idea what that is. 24-year-old Jordan Hudson there with him on the cover of Us Weekly. This Belichick, North Carolina decision is turning into quite the implosion. I'm going to be talking about it tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern on the OutKick show, which is airing on FS1. But Belichick gets blown out by Central Florida, blown out by TCU, 2-2 on the year, not a single top 25 opponent left on the schedule, and basically the entirety of Belichick's attention now is all directly resulted on his 24-year-old girlfriend. This is not going well for North Carolina. I thought it would either be a tremendous success or a tremendous failure. I think quite clearly it is a tremendous failure. Again, with that picture out and everything continuing there. All right, one last clip. I think we have Scottie Scheffler. We've got the Ryder Cup soon. Scottie Scheffler talked about what Donald Trump is like around the golf course. And what I would say is this is the Trump that I have seen behind the scenes quite a lot over the last several years. A guy who gets along with everybody, a guy who is super friendly, whether you are on the wait staff, whether you're a caddy, whether you are the owner of a golf club or one of the greatest golfers in the world, as we will have the best of Europe competing against the best of the United States. Here is Scottie Scheffler describing Donald Trump, who will be in attendance this weekend at the Ryder Cup. Watch.
You know, the president's kind of funny. He loves the game of golf. He loves supporting golfers, and I get a call or a text from him sometimes after wins. And he just loves the game of golf, and he's one of those guys when you're around him. He does such a good job of almost feeding confidence into everybody around him. That was one of the things I noticed a lot with the little bit of time I spent him is he treats everybody the same and treats people with the utmost respect. And whether you're the person serving us lunch or the caddy on the golf course or the guy who's the president of the club that we're at, he treats everybody like they're the greatest person in the world. And I don't think he has any plans to address us as a team, but I'm sure if things go well, we'll hear from him this week.
Okay, scheduled to be on Jesse Waters tonight. Encourage all of you to watch OutKick, the show, 6 p.m. Eastern, airing on FS1. Let's hit the YouTube comments now. A bunch of comments rolling in. Major props to Clay. Always appreciate that. For adjusting his ranking of LSU. The AP is failing to do that. They only dropped LSU one spot. This is the major issue with preseason rankings. The AP is still treating the LSU win over Clemson as a, quote, top 5 win, even though we now know that Clemson is terrible this year. I don't know if we have my OutKick power rankings, if you want to pop that up. This is what I do. Every single week, all season long, I consider the actual on-field play, and I adjust my rankings accordingly. And so LSU beating Clemson, we thought when the season began, hey, it's really hard to win at Death Valley. This is a very good Clemson defending ACC champ playoff team. But then they went out and lost on the road against Georgia Tech. And then they lost by double figures to Syracuse. And I think you have to go back and look at it and say, okay, are we really sure LSU is that good? Even up to and including a night game on the Bayou down in the other Death Valley against Florida, You only win by 10, even though DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions. I think it's fair to say, hey, have we seen enough of LSU to believe that they are somehow one of the top teams in college football? I think the answer is no. Now, if LSU goes on the road and wins at Ole Miss this weekend, then I may take a step back and say, you know what, I have to reconsider. That's a big win. That's a quality win. I might bump LSU back up. I actually think Ole Miss is going to win and cover. We'll talk some in detail about that tomorrow with Kelly Stewart on the Fade. But that's what I try to do on a week-to-week basis, is fairly analyze the actual games themselves and adjust my expectations as a result. Totally agree, Clay. YouTube needs to compensate creators for lost revenue. You're a lawyer. Be the lead plaintiff in a class action suit. Hey, if there is somebody out there that needs a lead plaintiff to sue YouTube based on content discrimination surrounding the COVID era, I'm your guy. I am happy to be involved. I think there should be a consequential payment to creators out there that lost revenue. And my concern with YouTube in general, we talked about this with Jim Jordan, congressman from Ohio, on the show, Clay and Buck, a little bit earlier, a few hours ago. My concern is, as soon as there's a Democrat back in power, YouTube will go right back to doing the bidding of whichever party is in power. If there are no consequences, and I mean significant monetary consequences, what's going to stop YouTube from censoring people with unpopular opinions again? Nothing. And so I think YouTube should have to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars in damages to all of the people that they discriminated against and censored. Otherwise, what is the punishment that they've had to pay? Just saying, oh, we got this wrong. Oh, we screwed that up. My bad. You suspended the OutKick channel. You restricted the algorithm from finding shows from me, from OutKick, from countless people out there because you didn't like what we said on the shows. And now you're going to say 5 years later, well, we were wrong. That's not significant enough. There have to be pecuniary consequences. There have to be costs associated with this. And frankly, I think in a lawsuit, there should be punitive damages assessed, because the marketplace of ideas, I would argue, is the single most important right that we have in the country. If you're going to restrict that, then you restrict our ability to function as a democratic republic because people don't get exposed to actual arguments. Guys, they took down my interview with Buck, alongside of Buck, of President Trump, and wouldn't allow us to post it. They took down our interview with Senator Rand Paul and wouldn't allow us to post it. You should hear everything every politician says when they're running for re-election. That's the entire basis of a political campaign. Politicians tell you what you think, and you decide whether or not you like the idea of them representing you. Restricting what a politician can say is a direct attack on democracy itself. I'm sorry. Everybody wants to get fired up about Jimmy Kimmel missing 4 shows. It's a pinprick of the importance, a scintilla of the overall impact of what happened at YouTube. There should be real consequences. They should be punitive in nature. They should be substantial. Clay, we know you're rich and have a lot of money. Your hair is great. Good for you. Thank you. Just a nice, great comment here. Hop in the comments. If you like a comment, share it, elevate it. Look, in all seriousness, I feel very fortunate because YouTube can't do anything to me now. Disney can't do anything to me now. Random Twitter accounts out there that are unhappy with what I say, they can't do anything to me. My family is taken care of for generations to come. But I care significantly about the larger cultural conversation we're having, and I care about 23-year-old Clay Travis out there that is just graduating from school, maybe didn't even go to college, and is trying to build a career for himself or herself and doesn't have an even playing field to be able to do what I did, which was at the age of 25, with zero audience 20 years ago, I started writing online. And now you're watching or listening to me. And there's an argument that I talk to more people every day than anybody in media. I mean, if you consider the number of people who listen to Clay and Buck, if you consider the number of people who see segments of this show every day, if you consider the number of people who see my hits on Fox News, how many people talk live to more people every day than me? Not many, maybe not any, that are in the media space. And that's a function of being able to compete in the marketplace and having people respond favorably or unfavorably, but at least pay attention to what I'm saying. Do 22-year-olds who want to be the next generation me, do they have an even playing field? I don't think so. Certainly historically they haven't. And that artificially curtails the marketplace of ideas. And if we don't have a fulsome universe of debate, then we end up with less successful results. If you think I'm a moron, build an entire show where all you do is argue against me. More power to you. If you have better arguments than me, you'll win in the marketplace of ideas. In 20 years, you'll be dunking on me every day. That's how the marketplace of ideas should work. If you're out there and you're like, man, Clay Travis is old. He's out of touch. He has no idea what he's talking about now. Be the next Clay Travis. Be the next Stephen A. Smith. Go out into the marketplace, make arguments, and build an audience around them. But you should be able to do that on a free playing field. Whether you're left wing, whether you're right wing, whether you don't have any political considerations at all, and all you want to do is get on YouTube and scream about how often the Titans head coach is. I just want a free and even playing field so the best arguments win, because if the best arguments win, our country wins, and that ultimately is my goal. All right, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern tonight, the OutKick show on FS1. Then I'm scheduled to be on with Jesse Waters on Fox News later in the evening. Congrats to my friends at PrizePicks. That's the American dream, founding a business, building it into a multi-billion-dollar entity, and being able to cash in on the value that you created. Really well done. I'm proud of those guys. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I'm Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick, the show.